Hi there, I'm Larissa Skierpers, and I will be giving a presentation on inclusive leadership. And my presentation will be divided into 3 parts. The first part will be a summary on 2 videos I found on inclusive leadership. The second part will be about inclusive leadership in teaching. And the third part will be the challenges of being an inclusive leader. The first video I found is called Nationwide: The Importance of Inclusive Leadership. And I thought this was a great video that really broke down what inclusive leadership is and what it is not in a very easy to understand way. The main speaker in this video, Tony Prestige, he says that inclusive leadership is not about consensus leadership. It's not about everyone agreeing. It's about everyone bringing their ideas to the table. And this is a really important point, is that you don't really have to agree at the end. It's just the fact that everyone was able to give their opinions and that their opinions were valued and considered. A quick summary of this video. It's a way to make sure that everyone is properly heard. Inclusive leadership is also about looking outside the organization at the diverse group of customers, families, etc. And this is a great point because there's such a diverse group of people in the world, especially with, I'm thinking about teaching specifically, I work with such a diverse group of students. Why would you want to have one framework of mind? You know, you should have different perspectives, diverse perspectives, and that's what inclusive leadership really focuses on. And inclusive leadership, everyone brings their ideas, but the leader still has the right to decide, but the decision is based off the ideas brought to the table by colleagues. So sometimes somebody might think inclusive leadership, you all have to agree at the end, and you all have to make a decision together, and that might take a lot of time, but in the end, the leader of the group still has the right to make the choice, the final decision, but the colleagues were able to bring their ideas to the table and voice their opinions. The second video is called Inclusive Leadership, and the lady in the video, Beth Brooke, gave a great quote. She says that inclusive leadership is an enormous need today. Inclusive leaders have a passion for difference. They understand that leading a group makes making difference safe. And that's a very important point because difference, something different for a lot of people may not be very comfortable. An inclusive leader needs to know how to make difference feel comfortable to people. The main points with this video: 1. Inclusive leaders realize the importance of diversity. They're able to communicate the importance to their colleagues. They invite diverse perspectives. As I said, they make difference safe. They know how to manage the friction and dissent that can come with diverse perspectives. A very important point, because when you have different opinions and ideas coming to the table, there are likely to be conflicts, and an inclusive leader needs to know when to step in and to handle those conflicts so that respect remains in the room and that no one is offended. Inclusive leaders have a passion for difference, and inclusive leaders lead the group to better outcomes. Second part of my presentation is on inclusive leadership in teaching, and I thought this quote from Kouzes and Posner in the Leadership Challenge really fits this next part of my presentation. And the quote is, "To get extraordinary things done in an organization, you have to go beyond reason, engaging the hearts as well as the minds of your constituents." I fully 100% agree with this, because you need to get people excited and passionate about what they're doing. And I'm thinking about teaching specifically, you really have to engage your students, make it fun, make it meaningful, and that's when they really get involved and want to learn. So I thought about an administrator in teaching and what would make, for me, a good inclusive leader as an administrator. And the things I came up with is, 1, everyone's voice is heard. I felt like my first year of teaching, I didn't really deserve to have a voice because I was a first year teacher and I didn't really know everything. I didn't want to seem like I knew more than, somebody who's been teaching for 30 years. So it was kind of quiet my first year. I really wish my administrator and even maybe my co-workers would have made me feel a little bit more comfortable speaking out in a group, saying, it's okay to voice your opinion. You deserve to have your voice heard as much as someone who's been teaching for 30 years. So that would have been nice to have. Exposure to new and different ideas. Respect towards all. It's very important. Everybody should feel respected. Teamwork and team bonding. I feel like this is very important to feel comfortable to have your voice heard. You need to know your team, who you're working with, and to get to know them on a personal level. Work towards common goals, as Nordhaus describes. We are there for the students. That is our common goal. So we might have different ideas and diverse ideas come to the table, but overall our common goal is to think about the students. So that an inclusive leader needs to keep that in mind, in my opinion. Choices. By having choices, you feel like you have a voice. It's very important for a leader to give his or her fellow workers choices because you feel like you are an important part of the team. And finally, I think patience is definitely a necessity for an inclusive leader. How to help your workers find their voices and confidence to speak their opinions. As we all know, not everyone feels 100% comfortable speaking out in a group. The quiet people may have their opinions and voices, they just don't feel comfortable speaking out in front of a group. So, I thought maybe what are some ways to make somebody feel comfortable? Create a comfortable environment. You can do this through respect, through humor. Humor is a great tool, it does wonders. And just letting your workers know, hey, everyone is valued. I value everyone's opinion, even if it's a crazy opinion. Just shout it out. No one will be put down here. I think that's very important to make clear to your team. Team building and icebreaker activities, as I said before, you need to know your team in order to feel comfortable speaking out in front of someone. It's kind of hard speaking out in front of somebody you don't really know, so why not get to know your team? Tell and show your workers that their voices and opinions matter. In the Leadership Challenge, the book we read, I remember one of the quotes was, it's very important for a leader to listen to their colleagues, listen again, be an active listener. Show them by listening that you care, and I think that's very important. And finally, something I kind of just thought of was the sandwich strategy. I heard this in college in one of my education classes. So you need everybody to feel comfortable speaking out for their opinions. And every once in a while you will get a wacky opinion that is completely off or completely not even on topic. But what you don't want to do is you do not want to shoot that person down and be like, no, that was a bad idea. Never want to do that. So you do the sandwich strategy. So you start with your bread, and to cover up you say, oh, good idea. Then you go to the meat, the main part of the message, but I don't know if that would be a great idea for this. And then you cover that meat up again, but I will definitely keep that in mind for the future. So that's a good way to respectfully let someone know, like, hey, I value your opinion, but it might not be just the best solution for our common goal, our students right now. What are some ways to give everyone a voice? Some people just don't feel comfortable talking out loud. For the groups that are comfortable, you can just go around the table and say, okay, tell me your opinion on this matter. Everyone has a minute. If that's not your group, you can say to your group, hey, write down your thoughts. I will read them in private. I will let you know at the next meeting everyone's thoughts on this matter. You could just say, come talk to me in private, one-on-one. That way it's just me and you, no audience. Or you could just do a quick poll. Hey, raise your hand if you agree with doing this. And that's a quick and easy way to give people a voice. but not necessarily with talking. A personal example on how inclusive leadership could better help a team. I thought about my teaching in the past 2 years, and a time when I felt like I could have really benefited from an inclusive leader was with dealing with Student of the Month. Every month we'd get together as a team and nominate a student for Student of the Month, and I noticed the same person was nominating the student. Nobody else was chiming in, and the administrator would always go with this person and say, okay, yep, this person is Student of the Month. So I asked a colleague, I said, why is it that she's the only one who ever nominates? And the person said, well, because she's kind of a hard person to get along with, and so the administrator just goes with her just to make her happy. So one meeting I nominated a student just to see what would happen, and the person just kind of looked at me and said, no, I completely disagree. I'm nominating this student. And the administrator went with her choice. And I just had a quick conversation with the administrator about it, and he said, yeah, you know, it's just best to keep her happy. I just go with her. Kind of brushed it off and thought, whatever. But then I thought about it, and I thought that's not really fair to our students, the fact that one teacher is nominating a Student of the Month. And it seems like her opinion seems more important. And it got to feel that way because people didn't even chime in at the table anymore. And so that's when I would have really liked to have an inclusive leader in that case. How can I demonstrate inclusive leadership towards my students? I can ensure that everyone's voices are heard. That's very important. Not everybody likes to speak out, like I said, so have students write down their opinions. I can read them, things like that. Be fair. Give my students choices so that they feel like they're an active participant, that we're a team, that I'm not just the one making decisions. For example, I could say, hey, go pick out the next book we're going to read together as a group. Promote respect and diversity. Make sure that respect towards me and the students with each other, that's very important. And the final part, the challenges of being an inclusive leader. An inclusive leader needs to know how to handle sensitive situations, such as when different views and opinions clash. An inclusive leader needs to not come across as trying to impose visions on people or ideas, as Kouzes and Posner state. And patience. So I thought, what were some possible solutions to this? How to handle sensitive situations, show understanding to various views. Think, is the compromise possible? If it is, maybe that's the way to go. Don't forget common goals to help you think of solutions. For not coming across as imposing on visions on people. It's great to share your ideas and visions, but let the workers express theirs as well. Share your vision and have your team come up with ways on how to carry out the vision so that they feel like a very active participant in your vision. Patience. It's a hard one. Count to 3 and breathe sometimes. You just need to be patient. Sometimes an inclusive leader just needs to know how to just be patient when, bringing various ideas to the table. It could take some time. And like I said, results take time. So it just takes some time for a group to work as a group and to get into the flow of things, especially a new group with new members coming in. So it just takes time. And I'm leaving you with this. Leadership can be learned, as Nordhaus says. There were some leadership articles that we read towards the beginning of the class were different views. Some people think leadership is inherent, it can't be learned. But I do think leadership can be learned, and I definitely agree with Nordhaus on this. I've learned so much already as a leader from this class. So it can be learned, and best of luck to all you leaders out there.